A successful businessman is talking to us about how his time in prison actually inspired him to start his own shoe and clothing company. Darrell Alston spent years in prison after being convicted of selling drugs. Now, during his third stint behind bars, he started sketching hundreds of designs to launch his own brand. All right, and joining us now, we have the man himself to talk about, your story is so inspirational. It's truly like prison to the palace. Talk about how
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about that trajectory and why. I wish we heard more stories like this, Darrell, of other brothers coming out of prison, being able to be as successful as you. Talk about how you started your company in prison, excuse me.
Um, yeah. Well, what happened was I got to a situation where I was incarcerated a few times. It was my third trip. I did 6.5 years on the third trip, and I just woke up one day. I'm talking to my mom, and my mom was like, "I don't know what you're going to do with yourself because you have dug such a deep hole that you're not going to be able to get a job." And she was like, "You got to figure out what you're going to do with yourself." So immediately I go back to the cell and I started praying. And probably about an hour or two later, something told me to pick up my pencil and sketch a shoe. I don't know why, because I never sketched anything before in my life. And when the shoe was done, it looked like I laid my sneaker on, you know, on a piece of paper. Like it was crazy. I never experienced anything like it before. So when I did that sketch, for me, it basically did like a lot of mental stimulation for me, where I actually felt like I wasn't incarcerated when I was sketched. So at that point, the sketching just took a life of its own, and I just started sketching every chance I got. And before I knew it, when I came home from prison, I had over 250 designs.
Wow. Darrell, did you know that you had that type of talent to draw?
Absolutely not. No,
What?
not at all. I never tried to draw anything before in my life. That was my first sketch. My
It was
first sketch was it looked like a real shoe.
it was like in that moment of darkness you found your calling.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I feel like, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I was today, even though I like hated being in prison so much. But I think that it was a blessing in disguise, for real.
So tell us what the meaning is behind the name. Better yet, shout the name out and then break down what the meaning is.
Okay, it's Bungee Obleceni. And the meaning of it is, if you think about a bungee cord, when you jump off of a bridge, you see the person bouncing up and down. I get my life to that. My life was like a bungee cord. So I always had a bunch of ups and downs in my life. And then Obleceni is a synonym of apparel. It's a Czechoslovakian word. There's no connection between me and Czechoslovakia. I think it was just the rap artist in me that made it where I wanted to try to do something different. So I ended up going with Obleceni because I liked how it looked and I knew what the definition was, and just Bungee Obleceni just stuck with me.
I love that. So I want to ask you somewhat of a personal question. I guess this is the moment where I get all up in your business because I did some
Mhm.
background info on you, and you talk about how you came from a two-parent household. You pretty much grew up in a middle-class family. Anything you needed, it was provided for you. So how does one
Mm.
walk down a path of crime? And yes, answer that question first, and then I want to know how your family is reacting to this bungee of success that you are now on. You turned your whole life around.
Okay, that's a very good question. That's the first time anyone ever asked me that. But I think that I was influenced by music. I used to think that music was reality. I had an opportunity to go to college and I didn't go. I decided to be a rap artist at the time. And at that particular moment, it was all about living your lifestyle and, talking about those lyrics. It was like, it was mind blowing to me. And I just basically just followed that. Like I lived what I was talking, and I didn't have to do it, but I had family members that lived in the city. I had friends that lived in the city, and I just learned everything that I did in the city, and I took it back to the suburbs, and I got in trouble. When it comes time for my family is like was very disappointed in my actions because I had so much potential to go play football for possibly a professional team, and to this day, my dad still has issues with my decision making back then, but he's definitely proud of me today. And it's funny because my mom, every single time she sees me on the news, she cries. She calls me up telling me how proud she is and how happy she is. Unfortunately, my grandparents passed away when I was incarcerated, which
Mm.
hurt really bad. Um, my grandmother actually had dementia when I came home, so she didn't remember who I was. But besides that, my family members are very excited for me and they're happy that I changed my life around. Same thing with people in the community that I grew up with. They knew how I used to be and they see me now on the news and they see my company and how it's growing. and everyone's just really excited for me at the moment. So I'm at a very happy place in my life right now.
Yeah, we can feel that energy. All right, so let's talk about how you're helping the next generation of young men avoid the same mistakes you made.
Yeah, the one thing that is disheartening, especially in Philadelphia, where we're from, is I see a gun violence death every day. And I always think about how it was when I was incarcerated, and I run into that young kid that may be 18, 19, that has to spend the rest of his life in prison. And I don't think that people understand that being in prison is like, the worst thing that you could possibly think of. It's the same day over and over again. And, you're away from your loved ones. You're working for 25 cents an hour. Like, it's horrible. It's a horrible place to be. And I just feel bad for this younger generation whenever I see them do something that's going to have them in prison for a long time. And I really believe that it's up to us to be able to guide these kids and show them that this is the way. And the thing that's hard is, like, I was a kid once. I remember when people used to tell me and I didn't want to hear it. So I think that I have to go above and beyond to try to prove to these kids that I've been there, I've done that. I lost my grandparents, I lost that girl that I thought that I was in love with, I lost all the materialistic things that I had at the time, and I basically came home to nothing with zero chances. Like, once you get in trouble, it's hard for you to find a place to stay.
Yeah.
It's hard for you to find a job. It's so many different things that makes it more difficult for you than what it already was. That I just really want to be able to stop that revolving door of people coming back and forth to prison. And it's horrible. It's horrible.
Absolutely.
I have so much to say about it, how to even get to it.
Well, we need more time. We do. We have to have you come back, but I have to get this last question. And besides Foot Locker, congratulations, that's huge. Where else can folks find your designs? We got about 20 seconds.
As of right now, Foot Locker is the main place. And then we also have a website. You can go to bungeebrand.com, BUNGEEBRAND.com. And Foot Locker is mainly in Philadelphia for now, but we're launching in other states soon.
I mean, that's still huge, Darrell. I don't know a lot of folks in Foot Locker, but now I do. It was a pleasure interviewing you, sir, and best of luck. And we look forward to welcoming you back.